Well, it's coming up to Stocktake time. In 6 or 8 weeks you're going to be doing a Stocktake, and it's going to be probably a full Stocktake. If you're using the PDA, it's going to be a lot easier, a lot faster, or in fact you may not need to do it because you've been doing rolling Stocktakes. So much easier on a PDA because there's no paperwork and no need to isolate any stock. We had a customer who's just purchased 3 PDAs call yesterday, and she had some questions which I thought were pretty good. So I'm going to show you one new feature in the PDA that we've added for that client, and also the answers to a couple of her other questions. So here we go. So first of all, it's the change that I'll show you. This is a quick change we've done to the PDA which allows you to add to count. Now if you're doing a full stock take, what you may want to do is zero your stock before you start. Do a backup first, go into V12, zero the stock. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But then once you've zeroed the stock, you're going to go through and count all the existing stock. If you haven't zeroed it, there may be stock that you've got registered in your system, but because it's not physically in your shop or your warehouse, you may not count it and you may not correct a mistake. So sometimes it's very good to actually start from scratch by zeroing your stock first. Now if you've zeroed your stock and then you've counted an item, and you've listed a quantity in stock, and then you come across that item again in another location in your warehouse, but you're not running multiple locations, you may want to add to the existing count because you know that anything that's in stock for this Stocktake is actually being counted in this Stocktake because it was zero before you started. So let me show you what we've done here. We've added a little box here. I'll pull up a part number. There's our part number, and we've got 5 in stock. That's the date that it was counted, and we've got this option here. So right now, if I put in a quantity, so let's say I thought I had 5, but now I've got 10, and if I click update, it's going to replace 5 with 10. So it's going to add 5 to your stock. So that's update and replace. And now if we bring it back up, Z100, you can see now there's 10 in stock, which is correct. Now let's say we've already counted some, we were 0 at the start, so we know that this 10 are from this Stocktake that we're doing, and any more occurrences of that product we want to add to that count. So we click add to count, it comes up. Now that tick's going to stay there until you untick it in this session, and we want to add to the count. So now we've come across another 5 of those. So we put 5 in, and now this has turned from green to blue, and instead of doing update replace, it's update add. So we update add, and now if we bring back the product, we can see there's 15 in stock. So that's the first change we made for this client, and that was a feature in the old PDA software, and it is a feature in V12, so we thought we'd add that. So that's the first change. Let me show you a couple of other things now. So here we are in V12 in the Stocktake entry screen, and I just wanted to show you that same point as I showed you, which is the add to count. There it is there. So if we click the add to count, it tells us that from now on, when we add a part and put in a quantity, it's going to add it to the current count. So right now this part number has 22 in stock. So if we go in here and we go, let's say 8, that should give us 30, and enter. And you can see there that added to count. This stays red until you untick it, and then once you go in there and let's say change that to 5, it will replace it, not add to. So that's that same feature in V12. Now one thing I mentioned in the last segment is that you can actually zero your stock before you start. The purpose of this is to make sure you're starting from all your stock 0, so any count you do is added and there was nothing in there to start with. I found this very handy in one of my older businesses, where if I had stock on my database but it didn't exist in my warehouse, I wouldn't count it, of course, and so that after the Stocktake I still had that stock in my database. So to avoid that, best to zero your stock first. You can do that by clicking the Initialise button. That's this button down here. Click on that. In the Initialise area, you can filter this, so you don't have to zero all your stock. If you're only counting part of your stock, let's say one group or one supplier or subgroup or one location, you can just zero that area that you're going to count. What I do though is I zero all my stock, so that's going to set everything to zero. It doesn't lose the information though, it copies the initial quantity, the quantity you started with, into what we call initial quantity, so that when you run reports, which I'm going to show you in a moment, it's going to compare what you had prior to zeroing the stock as against what you've got after doing your count. So zero stock, initialize, and tick to confirm, zero, and now that goes through and zeros all your stock. Now that process can take a while, and also if you're running multiple branches, you have to do it separately for each branch. Once it's completed, okay, and now if we display our stock, we can see that everything's zero. We're starting from scratch, and now any stock take count we do is going to add to the count. So basically that's how you can start your stock take, and you can even do that prior to using the PDA for your stock take, so it will have to be done in V12, not on the PDA. Next. Okay, so regardless of whether you do your transactions in V12 or on the PDA, you can keep track of what was actually done through either an adjustments report or a stock take activity report. So let's do a couple of stock take entries here. So I'll go down here, and incidentally you can filter this screen so that if you're only counting one group of products or subgroup or location, etc., this will appear in the order of part number for that filtered group. So that makes it easy if you've actually done printed sheets and counted on the printed sheets. If those printed sheets have been filtered the same way as you filtered this screen using these filters, then this list should mirror the list on your printed sheets. So you can just basically go down and fill in the numbers. So let's do a few more here. It's just telling us that some entries there are quite valuable entries, and it's just warning you to make sure that you've put in the right quantity. So we've done that stock take now, update, that's our user. You can get that, there we go, update. And preview stock take adjustment report, we can do that here, or I'm going to show you where to do that in the actual reports. So update, and our stock take is done. Now I'm going to show you where to find those adjustment reports in our report generator. So once you've done your stock take, either on the PDA or in V12, if you want to see what you've done, if you want to report, then you go to trading reports, and in trading reports you look for your stock take adjustment reports. You can find them just by hitting the magnifying glass there. I'll type in stock take, and there's a couple that you may want to look at. There's a variance report and there's an adjustments report. So the variance report is going to show you what you had, what you have now, and what the variance is. Adjustments is actually going to show you the batches that you've done. Now I've opened those reports up so that we don't have to wait for them to generate. So stock take adjustments report, this is going to show you the actual transactions. So they're the part numbers that I did the stock take for. That's the batch number. There's the number it was adjusted by. So they're all positive. I've adjusted them all up. And there's the average cost, and there's a total of the actual stock take adjustments. The other report is the stock take variance report. So now remember I said when you initialize the stock and change it to zero, it's actually going to make a record of what it was and give you a report of what it is now. So the initial quantity in this case was zero. The new quantity is here and the variance is here. Of course they match up because I started from zero. And then the new value and the value variance. So the value has increased by $7,500 almost. So they're the two reports that you can get from that. Now for the third question, let me show you that. The third question our client had was how to use the scan to list. In fact, what you wanted to do is you would normally use this to bring a list of products into a transaction screen in Peach. What this customer wanted to do was to open up the list in Excel spreadsheet. So it's pretty simple. We go to scan list. I've got some part numbers in there. You basically just scan them in with your scanner. The more you scan, it adds to the count, or you can just add to the count manually here by pressing the plus button. Once we've got the list as we want it, we click Finalise, and that's going to send the file to either Peach, or you can do a bulk change with that. A good example of the purpose of that is if you scanned a bunch of parts and wanted to move them into a particular location, you could do that with bulk change. Right now we're just going to send them to Peach, and it's going to send them into a certain folder. You just leave that as it is, click Save, and that's been done. So now where are those and how do we get them into Peach? So first of all, we go back into Peach, we go to Task Menu, and then in the Task Menu go to Admin, File Manager, and the first thing to do is click Connect. So there we are, we're connected. So that means you've actually connected your computer to the cloud server or to your server. And remember that because of the restrictions of web pages, if you're using this on a PC, it'll work fine. If you're using it in a web browser, it's not going to let you get near your local computer. So basically what we're looking for is the PDA scan list. So we click on that, and there's the list that we scanned. Now we want to move that from the actual server to our local machine. The way we do that is we click this button here, download remote file. So you select the file first, download the remote file, and yes, that's done. Alright, so now what can we do with that file? When we downloaded it, it said that we're going to store it into the downloads folder on my computer. So now we're going to go in and have a look at where we can use that. First of all, if you're using it in Peach, you don't need to search too far for it. Basically, if I wanted to go to a transaction, supplier order, I put in my supplier, and then I go to options and I do import CSV, and then we choose, and here we are focused on downloads. There's our file, open, there's the part numbers that we scanned, import, and the parts are in the supplier order screen. So that can be used in point of sale, invoice, customer order, supplier order, or goods in. Any of those transaction screens you can use that list in. So the last part of the question was how to open up the parts file in Excel. So basically you'd open Excel, you'd open the file location, go to your downloads, and you need to make sure that normally it would show you this, so that's only showing Excel files. You'll need to change that to all files so that it sees the CSV file. Once you've got that, click on that, opens the file up that you've scanned in. So there you are, there's the answer to that one. I hope that all makes sense, and good luck with Stocktake. Talk soon.